You picked up your phone this morning before you even said a word to another human being, maybe before you opened your eyes all the way. You didn't decide to do it. Your hand just moved, the way it always moves, toward the small glowing rectangle on your nightstand like it was the most natural thing in the world. And here's the thing, it was. That's what nobody tells you. The reason you can't stop checking your phone isn't a character flaw. It isn't weakness. It isn't laziness or distraction or a failure of willpower. It is your nervous system doing exactly what it was built to do, running ancient survival software on hardware that hasn't changed in 200,000 years. And that software, the one that kept your ancestors alive on the open savanna, is now pointed directly at a 5-inch screen. Your brain is not broken. It is working perfectly. It is just working for the wrong century. To understand why, you have to go back, way back. Not to the 90s, not to the invention of the television, not even to the printing press. You have to go back to a time when the most dangerous thing in your world was silence. When silence meant something was wrong. When a rustle in the tall grass could mean the end of everything. Your ancestors lived in small bands of roughly 20 to 50 people. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar at the University of Oxford studied the social structures of early human groups and found that the size of the human neocortex, the part of your brain responsible for social processing, correlates almost perfectly with group size. Your brain was literally shaped at a structural level to track around 150 relationships at once, to monitor who was loyal, who was angry, who was forming alliances against you, who had new information about food, predators, rivals. Information was survival. Not knowing what was happening in your group, at the water source, beyond the next ridge, could get you killed. The person who checked, who stayed alert, who never fully relaxed their attention, was the person who survived long enough to have children. And those children inherited the same restless, scanning, always monitoring brain. That brain is yours. Neuroscientist Wolfram Schultz spent decades studying what happens inside the brain when it anticipates a reward. What he discovered changed the way scientists understand motivation. He found that your brain releases dopamine, the chemical most people associate with pleasure. Not when you receive a reward, but in the moments before, in the anticipation, in the not yet knowing. The dopamine spike hits hardest when the reward is uncertain. When you flip your phone face up and the screen is dark, nothing happens. But the moment before, the half second between reaching for it and seeing whether there's a notification, that moment fires your dopamine system like a slot machine. And like a slot machine, the uncertainty is the mechanism. If you always got a notification, it would lose its power. If you never did, you'd stop checking. But because sometimes there's something there, a like, a message, a piece of news that feels urgent, your brain never learns to stop pulling the lever. B.F. Skinner called this a variable ratio reinforcement schedule. He demonstrated it with pigeons in the 1950s. He found that animals, including humans, will press a lever more obsessively for longer, with more resistance to stopping, when the reward comes at unpredictable intervals than when it comes every single time. The variable schedule is the most addictive pattern a brain can encounter. It is also the exact architecture of every notification system ever designed. This was not an accident. The engineers who built these systems studied the same science. They understood that a red badge on an icon does something to your nervous system. They understood that an unread number triggers the same ancient alarm that once fired when you spotted movement in your peripheral vision. Something out there is happening, something that might matter, something you don't yet know. And your brain, the brain that survived 100,000 years by never ignoring that alarm, cannot let it go. Here is what makes this stranger than most people realize. Your attention system was designed to be captured by novelty. Psychologist Nili Levy at University College London has shown that the human brain has a limited capacity for conscious attention, and that novel, surprising, or socially relevant stimuli are processed with priority. They cut the cue. They override whatever you were doing. That was the function. A new sound, a new face, a new threat. It needed to jump to the front of your awareness immediately, or the consequences could be fatal. Now consider what your phone delivers. Every time you look at it, novel information, new faces, social signals about status, rejection, acceptance, and threat. Breaking news that pattern matches to something dangerous is happening nearby. Messages from members of your tribe that require a response, or else the relationship might weaken. Every single thing your ancient attention system was calibrated to prioritize above everything else. You are not distracted. You are doing exactly what 3 million years of evolution trained you to do. You are scanning for threats. You are monitoring your social group. You are updating your information about the world. You are doing the things that kept your ancestors alive. The problem is that this environment was never supposed to produce 10,000 pieces of social and threatening and novel information every single hour of every single day. Your stress response, the cortisol spike that accompanies each ping, each notification, each rapid scan, was designed for short bursts. See a predator, run, cortisol falls, rest, repeat occasionally. Not receive 227 notifications, check the news 6 times before lunch, monitor 3 group chats, refresh your feed every 4 minutes, all day, every day for years. Researcher Gloria Mark at the University of California, Irvine has studied how digital interruptions affect the human brain. Her findings are striking. After a single interruption, a single notification, it takes an average of 23 minutes for your brain to return to the same level of deep focus it had before. 23 minutes. And most people receive dozens of interruptions every hour. That means most people's brains never return to deep focus at all. They spend their cognitive lives in a state of constant partial attention, perpetually half distracted, always half somewhere else. That state has a physiological cost: elevated cortisol, reduced activity in the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for long-term planning, impulse control, and nuanced reasoning. Increased activity in the amygdala, the part that processes threat and emotional reactivity. The longer you spend in this cycle, the more your brain rewires itself toward it. The neural pathways that support deep focus weaken from disuse. The pathways that support rapid, shallow scanning strengthen. Your phone is not just distracting you, it is, over time, reshaping the physical structure of how you think. And yet you keep reaching for it. Not because you are weak, because you are human. Because the ancient part of your brain, the part that does not understand the difference between a saber-toothed cat and a push notification, cannot tell the difference between a real threat and a digital one. Cannot tell the difference between a missing member of your tribe and an unread message. Cannot tell the difference between important news from the next valley and a news alert from across the world. Every ping says, something out there matters. Pay attention now. And you do, because for almost all of human history, that was the right call. There is something almost poignant about it once you see it clearly. Your brain is loyal to a world that no longer exists. It is scanning for predators in a landscape made of glass and light. It is monitoring your tribe across distances your ancestors could never have imagined. It is doing its ancient job with everything it has in an environment it was never designed for, and it will not stop. Because stopping, for the brain that built you, once meant death. So what do you do with that? The first thing you do is stop blaming yourself. The compulsion is not a moral failing. It is not a sign that you lack discipline or depth. It is a sign that you have a very old, very effective nervous system that is encountering a very new, very well-engineered trap. The second thing you do is understand what your brain actually needs, not more information. It already has more information than it can process. It needs safety signals. It needs periods where the scanning can stop, where the dopamine loop can rest, where the amygdala is not chronically activated. That looks like time when your phone is in another room. Stretches of the day where the lever cannot be pulled, so the variable ratio schedule loses its grip. Environments your nervous system can interpret as genuinely safe, where no new threat is incoming, where the tribe is fine, where silence is allowed to mean nothing at all. Your ancestors lived in those environments, long hours of it, sitting by a fire, walking through familiar land, existing without input. Their nervous systems recovered. Yours needs the same chance. The screen will always be there. The notifications will always come. The machinery of novelty and social signal and uncertain reward is not going anywhere. But now you know what it is. You know why your hand moves before your mind catches up. You know whose voice it is, calling from inside your chest every time the phone lights up. It is not an app. It is you. 200,000 years old, still scanning the horizon, still listening for movement in the dark, still doing everything it was ever trained to do, waiting for you to give it a moment of rest. Tonight, when you set your phone face down and leave it there, you will feel a pull. That pull has a name now, And knowing its name is the first step toward being something your ancestors never quite managed to be. Free to stop watching just for a little while because you finally understand that you are safe.